Whether you are on an adventure or at the downtown cafe, your answers are no more than a sniff away. Dog Training 360's purpose is simple: to teach you why dogs do what they do, as well as the action steps you need to take to have better communication, connection, consistency, and conceivability with your dog. Today on our episode, we're going to talk about nutrition, and it's on the forefront of our minds. I feel like it's kind of something that Shannon and I are always kind of
tweaking,
thinking
about
and shifting, and I think what the hard piece is just the overall knowledge of dog food,
right?
And the overall trust in dog food companies.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't know what to really look for, if you will. And at the end of the day, something that I have truly discovered is, kibble is not all, it's not created equal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all is created equal.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, it's like going to the cereal aisle
Mm-hmm.
and picking out the best cereal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all created equal.
Well, and I sometimes I just noticed this, especially with treats. Treats are really that way.
Yeah.
Some treats are really good and some treats are really bad. So, like, I do have bad treats in my house.
Yeah.
I say bad with quotation marks.
Yeah.
Unhealthy.
Yeah.
Not nutrient
it's the candy
valuable.
bar. Yeah.
Right? I call it dog McDonald's.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The dog McDonald's,
Yep.
And I think people have so much trust, professional people. Like, we go to professional people for professional advice.
Right.
And they have their trust in these certain things, and so that's what they recommend. And so it's really hard to find all the information.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we're saying, like, in the grocery store, the kibble aisle is the cereal aisle.
Right.
It's like there's all these other aisles of the grocery store.
Yeah.
But people just don't know about them, or they might know about one other aisle, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, we find out about, because we're just, like, love to, like, research about nutrition and things. And so we just research, and we'll be like, I found this new aisle in the grocery store. So then we go and we try the things in that aisle and see how that works. And then somebody in that aisle knows about another aisle,
Yeah.
And so, like, you start to get this big picture of, like, what the whole grocery store element of the dog food is.
Right.
But it's really, really difficult to get there because of how unconnected the information is to each other, I think.
And then let's go to the health food places.
Sure.
And I tend to just, like, find something that intrigues me visually.
Sure.
And then I'm, like, all over it.
Mm-hmm.
And one bag, it was like it was goat, was the meat source, and all natural, limited ingredient, organic. I mean, all the right words.
Mm-hmm.
All the right words.
Mm-hmm.
And then I flipped over to the ingredients, and it had natural flavor.
Yeah.
I just really don't know what natural flavor. I'm still trying to figure out what that is.
Sure.
But what fascinated me the most is it wasn't limited ingredient.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't grain free.
Mm-hmm.
It was, but everything led to make you feel
Believe that it
like
was.
it was.
Yeah.
And what most people don't understand is there's a regulation on words.
Yeah, right.
On using a word, and they define it. Like, you can use organic if, you can use grass-fed as long as the chicken has, a space about the size of a coffee table, if you will.
Of grass that it can get to.
Of some place that it can range, or free range, if you will.
Right.
Grass-fed, as long as they started on grass, doesn't necessarily mean that they can't.
To have grass
so
their
it
whole
could
life.
be to a feedlot to be finished. If you will, but you can stake grass-fed because X a percentage of
it had a percentage of grass during its whole life. And like one year of its life it ate grass.
I mean, it's so you have to understand the definitions of these words.
Sure.
To understand that it's not really what we think in our minds.
Right, like organic is a good example. Yeah. Because like if you imagine, and that's why they use them, right?
Oh, for sure.
Because people have emotional baggage of what they imagine that the word organic means. Yeah. And their definition is like something that grew in dirt or something. It's like so basic. Yeah. I don't know that. I can't remember the actual definition.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of in that process of dog food at this point too. But it's even that way in human consumption and human foods.
Absolutely.
Is it just has to meet a certain requirement of nutrients to use a word with it, and that's something that we don't really understand. We're in such a world of processed foods, and don't understand that the processed foods and what's in that processed foods is actually causing the medical problems that our dogs are having.
Yep.
And that we're having as human beings. And so it's important, and I am not into like, oh my gosh, don't eat anything that's no sugar, no, I'm not that person. But the more I've studied dog food, the more I'm becoming aware of what I'm eating and how it impacts my body. And a lot of that just comes from, I can't have a conversation with my dog. So
and ask them how are they feeling.
So if I, like, for example, if I went and bought a cake from the grocery store,
sure,
which I have, and you eat it and you feel like you're packed full of sugar and, there's this thing going on.
Yeah.
But then I had a professional baker make a cake. And it didn't have to be refrigerated. And that was the
preserving
best
chemicals in it.
Cake I have ever had in my entire life. And so, there was sugar in it. There was flour, and those things you're supposed to stay away from, if you will. If, to...
do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like we don't only eat sugar, right? Because
and so
we'd be in really bad shape.
I feel like and our dog's digestive system is not the same, but in the big picture of things, if I feel better eating better,
right,
then my dog's going to feel better eating better. And the hard piece that I have found by feeding my dog better is the cost is so expensive, but the better still isn't good enough.
No, but it is a big difference.
Yeah.
The better is a huge difference.
Yes.
Between like a grocery store-ish food or just a regular pet store-ish food.
Yeah.
To like putting in a little extra effort to add, vitamins or raw or buying better quality, less processed foods. Just that step.
Yeah.
From grocery store to that is a huge health difference. Yeah. Like, I agree, it's still not good enough. Like, we're still on the journey to find, like, the best thing for our dog.
Yep.
But the difference between those two things is almost unbelievable.
For sure. For sure. And I'm in the process of transitioning mine onto a fully raw diet in the journey of finding it to be how can I make it cost effective for people to have the best. And it's not the cheapest for us to eat healthy. It's not the cheapest for us to eat whole foods. It's more time consuming to eat whole foods. And so you have to prepare more. You have to think ahead a little bit more nutritionally. And so even with the dog food, you have to prepare a little bit. You have to think ahead a little bit. But one of the most fascinating things that where I'm shifting into with my dogs is I don't have to add any artificial supplements if I feed them correctly and understand the nutritional value
of the
to
ingredients
piece that I'm putting in it. I mean, and this sounds really gross. I'm on the hunt for eyeballs.
Right.
Obviously not human eyeballs. But that is like the powerhouse.
The superfood.
One of, like the guts of like that. If you can get your hands on eyeballs and you give them to your dog, not abundance, because that's not healthy either, but finding the balance. Eyeballs are so packed full.
I mean, if you think about it, like if they're eating a whole big animal, the animal only has 2 eyeballs.
Right.
So the chance, if they're in a big pack and they're hunting, like if we say wolves,
the most
chance
athletic
of them
one
getting the eyeball is pretty like sparse, you know?
Yeah.
So just think about it logically that way.
Yep.
on your how many eyeballs should my dog eat?
Yeah. Right. And it's going to be the most athletic one that gets the highest nutrition
price,
right? And so and the eyeballs actually came, it is a part of like, if you have a working athletic dog, like here's how you help them like supplement to make sure that they're, you know, they're like getting the calories that, you know, that they need. And so the challenge is the time that it takes to prepare. And it's something for me that I'm trying to get into. Like, I'm finishing up what I have with my kibble and my store-bought dehydrated raw and, you know, my frozen raw and all of that. I'm finishing up what I have. And I've been working with processing plants, just trying to, it's not cheap, but it's not, it's right on par for what I'm spending in kibble and my raw supplements that I've been adding at this point. And so it really has been kind of a fun journey to understand, you know, what each part of the animal can do for your dog nutritionally. And when we do you know what sweetbread is?
Yes, I do.
I just learned.
Oh.
And so when I went to the processing plant, the butcher, it's not like processing, it's like the butcher. I'm like, you guys, you know, I was asking for guts, and they're like, oh yeah, we've got plenty of sweetbread. Do you want sweetbread? And I'm like, I just learned about it. Yes, I would like sweetbread. It's another high packed nutrients filled gut. The thing that's happened to me over this last probably month or so with nutrition is I feel like as I'm dishing my dog's food up with kibble, that I'm feeding them like the worst cereal in the cereal aisle. And I'm feeding a high quality kibble that is not cheap.
Yeah.
But it gets kind of into you where you're like, wow, but I could be feeding you better. The other thing that I've noticed with nutrition as I have transitioned mine onto raw is the dogs that come into my home that are poop eaters are not eating my dog's poop.
So they're digesting it
and
better.
So, and it's definitely smaller, even much smaller than they are at this point. And the color starts changing quicker into that white color, which that should be what it is. And so they're just not, like, they're not eating it. Where I find that mine will eat another dog's poop randomly. It's really random. And it depends on the more garbage food that the owners are feeding, the more enticed they are to eat that poop. And my dogs are not poop eaters, but you randomly like see them trying it.
Dutch will. Like you see them like they're carrying the poo around, and you're like, "What are you doing?" And they drop it.
Nothing. I don't know.
Yeah. Dutch will do that.
They're not like scrounging around for like just eating poop. But it's really funny how they're like,
"What's with this? Something's different about this poo."
Yep. So that's one thing nutritionally that I'm finding, and I can't say that that's this going to solve the problem for poop eaters at all. But it's very fascinating to see. Kind of the shifts in my dogs as I've gone into raw. I do raw meaty bones, and I have a lot of them in my yard.
Mm-hmm.
And my dogs don't fight. At first, they were fighting over the bones, and Patsy was hoarding them.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they were really getting, it was
nasty about it.
Quite vicious. Yeah. But now it's not that way. Like, because they are nutritionally being fulfilled for what they need in those bones, which is really important. Mm-hmm. Raw meaty bones they need to be a part of your dog's diet. Mm-hmm. They need to be. And so, you know, it's not fantastic to prepare their food. Mm-hmm. It's not the cheapest route to go. My goal is to figure out a way to make it so people can feed
the
premium for a price that's somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be for everybody's budget, but it shouldn't be for those that are making a substantial amount of money to be able to afford to feed it. Is what I believe that everybody should have the opportunity. It's just like I believe that every human being our fruits and vegetables should cost less than the box of, you know, something on the shelf. It really should. But it's not there.
And we have, as people, like when we go to the grocery store, we already have all these choices.
Yes.
And the dog food industry is behind.
Yeah.
Because the dog food industry really is only offering cereal.
Yeah. Right.
And so people don't know that there's another choice.
Right.
Because, like, there's not really. When you go to the store, there's only these so many choices. And they're choosing the best that they can, that they know about.
Right.
But there's all these things out there that people don't know about. Yeah. And so it's like offering this other choice, this better choice. Yeah. And getting it out there that, hey, here's another choice. That's not cereal.
Right.
You know.
Right.
It's a vegetable.
Yeah. Right.
You know. Because how do you know? How do you know unless you like are really, really interested and love reading about it? And read about it on your free time, like as a hobby. Yeah. Which is what we do. Yeah. We're interested in it, and we're reading all these articles and books and going and talking to people, and you know, because we're interested in doing it. And people just don't have time for that. They don't know that that's a thing. Yeah.
Well, a lot of people don't even know that they can, you know, that they should feed stuff out of their fridge to their dog.
Oh, sure. You know, they think it's bad. I think
it teaches, you know, things begging. That I hear over and over is that we don't feed them human food because we don't want them to beg. Yeah. And that's not a thing. Yeah. Like, you have to teach them to beg by feeding food from the table,
not the food in their bowl.
Yeah. Yeah. So I hear that a lot. But people just don't even know, like, you can give them cottage cheese.
Sure.
You could even give them milk. It's not the healthiest, but it's not a bad thing either. What's so hard on our dog's digestive system is the fact that things are processed. That's what makes it so difficult for their system, their immune system, their antibodies that fight everything, their histamines that stop allergies, is the processed stuff is so hard on their system that their bodies finally just create, you know, bad
responses.
Cells or
bad responses. Yeah. And some dogs are really, really more affected than others.
For sure.
You know,
for sure.
Like just within my house, I would say I have 2 dogs that are very affected by what they eat and one that's not affected at all.
Right.
You know,
right.
And different things also affect them differently.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
So, I guess that's one of the reasons why I find that I have this hobby to research stuff is because I feel like I have 2 dogs that their health is really compromised and that I can make it better by changing what I feed them.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard. You know, people think get out and walk my dog. And I think this cycles back through to, get out and walk your dog, check the poop. We
look at all the dogs' poop.
We do look at all the dogs' poop.
We look at,
and we can totally tell what they're feeding, what they got into, what they, you know. Dogs cannot process vegetables unless it's broken down, steamed, pureed, so that the process is already starting.
Right. Well, because the cells of plants are physically different than cells from animals.
Yep.
And in your digestive system, you have to have specific enzymes that can break apart the walls of the cells.
Yes.
And so since dogs aren't complete herbivores,
right,
they don't have multiple stomachs and all that jazz. Their body doesn't have the enzymes that can complete the process to break down the cell walls of plant cells.
Right. So steaming it, pureeing it, they're able to get the nutritional value from it.
If you break it down first. Yeah.
Right. And it's not a full absorption either of it. So it's important to understand that. It's important to understand nutrition for your dog. And please, if you guys have questions, let us know, because we can go on and on about this.
I just want to talk really quick about obesity, because processed food is leading to obesity in dogs as well. Like, that's a problem
for sure.
that it is in humans. Yeah. And you can see, like, I worked at the vet, and a high portion of dogs that come into the vet are obese. Oh. You might notice it walking around in your own neighborhood, or you might notice it in your own house. I have one dog that's a little bit chubbly.
Yeah. Yep.
But the process part of the food leads to that obesity. Yes. So just as a side note of nutrition, if your dog is obese, it is a reaction to eating the more processed dog food.
Right. And that is something that is, it's hard because financially it's hard.
Oh yeah.
And so
emotionally it's hard too.
For sure.
Because if you're feeding a highly processed food, you have to feed less of it.
Drastically less.
For the calories to be in the range to not make your dog obese. Yep. And so then you feel emotionally bad that you're feeding your dog 3 kibbles or whatever.
Right.
And it can be a really large dog. Yeah. A really large dog their diet can be 1/4 cup of food. Mm-hmm. A dog that's over 30 pounds, depending on what the food is,
Right.
So you feel emotionally bad that you aren't feeding your dog enough.
Yeah.
Because in your mind, you're like, this is a big dog. It should be eating more. It should be eating more whole foods or, raw foods or what have you.
Yeah. I think that's, the same for us, Shannon, as humans, is we will eat a higher amount of processed foods to feel satisfied or more frequently than if we are eating more holistic. You actually eat less because your body is satisfied. And I think that circles back around to, I don't eat unhealthy. I do eat some processed foods. But the more holistically I'm eating, the better I feel, and my cravings are way different, way different. And so I feel like that it's got to be the same for my dogs, is that if I'm feeding them more holistically, they're feeling better. Therefore, they're more willing to get up and move around and do things.
Sure, they just feel better.
Yeah.
They're just happier.
Yeah.
They find more joy in their life because they just don't feel dumpy.
Right.
Like, you can, if you eat a whole bag of Cheetos, you're going to feel dumpy. Right?
That road trip food.
Yes.
Then you're going to like, oh. Yeah. Because it's all processed stuff, so it definitely, for me, I've made a change for myself. Again, I don't eat unhealthy. It's not that. It's that I want to understand if I'm feeling better and better, and my family is saying, wow,
I feel better. I have so much more energy.
Yeah. And that my dogs have got to be feeling better too, because I can't have the conversation of, how does this make you feel?
No, you just have to watch them like a crazy person.
Yep. And I'm not, we have some unhealthy treats at our house, and I kind of look at that as like having some cookies and milk, if you will.
Sure.
Again, you don't have to be extreme.
No.
And you don't have to be extreme for yourself or extreme for your dogs. And it's okay to have a cookie or a candy bar here and there. But you will be amazed at how much more energy in a healthy way, healthy energy.
Yeah. Like alertness.
Yeah.
Playfulness, joyfulness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And their appearance.
Yes.
Is better. You notice right away a big difference in the appearance that they look better to your eye.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And so you will find the same differences for you is, I have cookies and milk. And then afterwards I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have eaten that, but that was really good. And I'm just moving on and I don't dwell on it, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
And I'll still have cookies and milk.
Yeah, but
in a couple of days.
Yeah, but you
know?
Have like a couple of cookies. You're not like eating like 12 packs of cookies a night or something.
And so I don't feel guilty about giving my dogs
a little treat,
you know, and sometimes they just like the crunchy, you know, it's something exciting and you know, it's not healthy for them and that's okay. It's okay. But when you give them everything that they can fight off and be healthy, a cookie here and there is not a bad thing.
No.
And so, you know, again, I just want to reiterate to people is you don't feel guilty about what you're feeding, but dig in there. There's more.
There's a wide variety of choices.
There is. And all in, you know, hopefully as we get going along that, I can help people feed better. And be more cost effective so that and help people understand what is in their kitchen that they can help
use
and be better. So if you can only afford a certain dollar amount for kibble and that's kind of their staple, but there's things that you can decrease the kibble and add that you have in your cupboard or your fridge or your freezer to help them feel just a little bit better. That would be my goal in this journey of nutrition and dog food.